Good day everyone, welcome to my reflection video for PEPS 171. My name is Lauren Hagger. I am a South African who is currently working as an ESL teacher in Vietnam. I studied a degree in fine arts at the University of Pretoria. I see myself as a hard-working individual who tries to bring a sense of creativity into everything I do in life. I particularly enjoy working with young children as they find the developmental process quite fascinating. Being able to watch them grow intellectually and become more aware of their cognitive selves and their actions is a very rewarding process when you play a part in it. So, what is educational psychology? To me, educational psychology is seen as a specific branch of psychology that studies the development of children. It analyzes the learning process and how children retain new information throughout each developmental stage, from early childhood to adolescence. It is mainly concerned with the mental processes and behavior with learning and instruction. To be an effective teacher, one needs to create a successful learning environment. Educational psychology provides the teacher with more insights and information on how to improve the process of learning. If a teacher can understand how children learn and develop during the specific stages of life, they can then support their intellectual, social, and personal development stages appropriately by applying relative methodologies or techniques. Educational psychology is important to understand and use, as a teacher will encounter a diverse range of students which have a variety of learning processes. To ensure each student understands the content being taught, the teacher needs to apply different approaches and instructional strategies to account for the development of critical thinking, problem solving, and performance skills. Therefore, educational psychology affects the learning and teaching process in a positive way, as it enhances the teacher's understanding of their students, which creates a more effective learning environment that helps children successfully develop emotionally and intellectually. So, what have I learned in educational psychology? I feel that educational psychology has helped me improve a lot as a teacher. It has made me see my students as individuals rather than a collective. I have discovered that the way I teach and present myself to the students has a major impact on the way they learn and how they perceive learning in general. It has taught me how to create an holistic learning environment where our students learn for understanding. Educational psychology has given me clarity on the misconception of being a teacher. I did not realize how complex the teaching process could be, and I thought it was mainly about having good content knowledge in the beginning. I was unsure why teachers needed training in educational psychology. However, there are so many complicated decisions teachers must make every day. Having more insight into the way the development process of a child occurs makes a massive difference about how and why we make the decisions we do as teachers. It is an extremely important subject to study to help our students improve their cognitive, emotional, and social skills in an effective manner. Now we will reflect on the topics in the units and the module in general. So let's start with Unit 1. Here, we learned about the history and development of educational psychology. We reflected on the birth of psychology, which was traced all the way back to philosophers such as Aristotle and Plato, who even then were intrigued by mental processes and how they determined behavior. We also analyzed famous theorists and their different schools of thought. In Unit 2, we focused on holistic development and different domains of learning. Here we learned about both Maslow's and Bloom's theories. We developed an understanding of the hierarchy of needs. Teachers use this holistic technique in the classroom to help their students reach their full potential by nurturing their basic needs, such as food and water, to more complex concepts like self-fulfillment. We also learned about the domains of learning. These include emotional, social, cognitive, language, and physical domains. By studying these domains, it helps teachers create a more contextual understanding of their students, and therefore it can help them develop strategies that can adhere to these developmental changes. Next, we have Unit 3. We specifically analyzed the theorists of Jean Piaget and Lev Vygotsky. We did a group assignment where we had to analyze strategies that could be used in the classroom that were based on these two theorists' ideologies. Piaget and Vygotsky both have theories about cognitive development in children. Piaget believed that the development process should focus on the learner's capabilities to encourage advanced thinking at a later stage. The teacher should have little intervention in this process, and the child should learn by making mistakes and learning from them. On the other hand, Vygotsky believed that there are 4 elementary functions that help develop higher order of thinking in children. These include attention, sensation, perception, and memory. These functions develop in the zone of proximal development. Here, the teacher does intervene in the learning process, but merely to help the students strengthen their abilities by guiding them. Now let's look at Unit 4. In this unit, we learned the How to Teach for Understanding framework and had to implement these strategies into one of our own lessons. Here, we needed to incorporate the guiding principles, which include publicly stating what you want the learners to understand, making learning a long-term centered process, creating an atmosphere for inquiry, engage learners in the performance of understanding, ensure there is a rich ongoing assessment, and teach for transfer. Then we have Unit 5. Here we learned about identifying different barriers to learning and specifically reflecting on one intrinsic barrier and how we can implement teaching strategies in the classroom to make a more inclusive learning environment. I chose to study the autism spectrum disorder. I mainly focused on the strategy of using visual aids to help guide these students throughout their daily routines in order to reduce stress and anxiety that could be evoked by change. People who have ASD usually rely on repetitive behavior. By creating posters or visual schedules of routines, it helps combat outbursts that may occur throughout the day. People with ASD also battle to connect socially with others, but by creating visual stories about how to interact with their peers appropriately, it can help them understand how others feel, and how to react. Lastly, we have Unit 6. Here we discuss the philosophy of a teacher and the maladjustment. We learned about different ways to combat the stress and anxiety that may come with the pressure of being a teacher, and we reflected on these ideals with our fellow peers. I specifically learned about how so many teachers leave this profession after just 5 years of teaching. This is due to the lack of incentive and for facilities that are provided by the government, as well as the extreme workload and emotional weight that teachers must bear. I personally found this unit extremely insightful. I am currently a teacher, and especially now during COVID, the stress has been extreme. I believe that a maladjusted teacher truly affects her students' performance and attitudes towards learning. I will use these techniques to live a healthier, more balanced lifestyle for the betterment of my students. The area that had the most impact on me throughout educational psychology was about the different barriers to learning, specifically focusing on ASD. I taught kindergarten for about a year, and throughout my time teaching, I came across so many children who had some mental disabilities that had similar symptoms and behaviors. At the time, I was unsure on how to deal with these outbursts that occurred in class. I wish I had learned some of these strategies beforehand. They would have really helped me combat these types of behaviors and also make my students feel more inclusive in their learning environment. This unit gave me a better insight on why some children with disabilities act the way they do. Instead of using traditional approaches that are deemed less inclusive to those with disabilities, I should have rather implemented maybe a 5-point scale system to understand what level of emotion the students were feeling, and then I could have acted accordingly to avoid class disruption and help calm my students. I also could have changed the layout of the classroom to reduce behavioral problems. I could remove specific stimuli or designate calming corners to exhibit more appropriate behavior for the student and relieve the student's stress. Thank you so much for listening to my reflection video. I hope you found it insightful.